suit coat, walks to the door, puts on his sunglasses very casually, and motions to me, said, "You better get some ice on that."
Referring to your lip.
Yes.
Now you got, you got to think too. It's such an unusual physical restraint move. You know, I wouldn't think of it. This would have to be something he had practiced before and done previously. Because who would come up with an idea like that?
Well, Elizabeth Grayson Ward said she suffered the same thing.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that. And it was prior to you or after you?
I'm sorry?
Was that prior to your rape or after your rape?
After mine. And even though she said that it was consensual, she remarked about the lip biting.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Now, what about out of all the women, there was a lot of, has anybody else come forward with a brutal rape like this as you described?
No, approximately a year, somewhere within a year after my Dateline interview showed, I had a lady follow me out of Walmart. And she said, beautiful, beautiful blonde lady, probably close to my age, a little younger. And she hollered my name and she said, "I just want to tell you what happened to me." And she began to tell her story. And she and her husband were friends with the Clintons. And she was at a gala at one of the hotels in Little Rock. And she said she went to the restroom and Bill Clinton, she said, was drunk and followed her in there and smashed her up against a wall, started to tear at her clothing. And she said she doesn't think she would have been able to stop the abuse and the assault had another lady not walked in the restroom. And I said, "Why didn't you come forward?" She said, "I just went back and told my husband and we left." She said he would never allow me to come forward.
Now, after your incident, though, people did witness your injuries, right, and saw how upset you were.
Oh, yeah. You know, after the rape, I went to the door and I locked it because I had this feeling like somebody's going to come in and get rid of me. This is absolutely astounding that this could happen. And I laid back down. I don't know how much time went by, 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so. I hear a knock on the door and I go to it and it's Norma. I had completely forgotten about her and the seminar. I just wanted to lay down, go to sleep and wake up and think that, you know, maybe this didn't happen. And I opened the door and she saw me still in the same state. And she came rushing in and I started crying all over again. Mm-hmm. And I explained to her what had happened. And I'll never forget how kind she was. She was my friend. And she got ice from my mouth. And she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I just want to go home. I just want to go home." So she packed up everything, helped me change clothes, and we left for home.
Yeah, and in the 70s, even if it wasn't a powerful man like Clinton, it was still difficult, scandalous, like, you know, it's shameful to report a rape, you know. It was, and it wasn't handled very well by the police back in those days either. The cops, men would come and right away. Oh, it was a whole different time. People need to understand that.
Right, and he was the police.
Right.
He was the attorney general. And there's no way I could have come forward. It was the attitude back then in the 70s, men will be men, just deal with it. And that's what we did, Ed. That's what we did.
No, I'm 55 years old. I'm very familiar with the culture, how it was back in those days, yeah. Now, who else did you tell besides Miss Rogers?
Well, we told her sister shortly after we got back. They both worked for me. Norma Rogers was my director of nursing, and her sister, Jean Darden, was my assistant director of nursing. And so we told her almost immediately. And then I told my friend, Susan Lewis, I was the godmother of her children, and I told her shortly thereafter. And then my nursing friends, Louise Ma and Kathleen Krigler, I told both of them. And of course, I told the man that I was having the affair with. I didn't tell my husband at the time because we weren't really speaking that much and we were on the verge of divorce. And he would have blamed me also.
Oh boy, I tell you, what a horrible situation to go through.
Yeah, and thing too is Bill Clinton regulated my nursing home as Attorney General and then as governor. He could have put me out of business.
Yeah, that's true too. I never even considered that. Now, did you ever have any contact again with Clinton after that? Did he call you or anything?
Yes, in 91. Now, in 1984, I received a letter from him. Let me backstep here just a little bit. After I returned home, he would call me at my nursing home. He would call, and I would tell my assistant, which was very uncomfortable because she didn't know the situation. And she would come to me and she said, Bill Clinton's on the phone. And I said, well, tell him I'm busy. I can't come to the phone right now. This happened 2 or 3 times. And then the final time that he called, I happened to answer the phone. And he had the audacity to say to me, hi, this is Bill Clinton. When are you coming to Little Rock again?
Oh my God.
I just hung up. Can you believe he would say that to me?
It's just fascinating. You have to wonder what is going on in his mind and his whole life is a life of evil. You know, it's just a life of evil.
I know. It's just like this is my right.
Right.
I have the right to rape you, and you be quiet about it.
Now, all the time, the interaction you had with Clinton, did he ever mention his wife, that he was married and had any kind of relationship with his wife? Never brought her up.
Never mentioned her. Never mentioned her. And I had no idea that it wasn't. At that time, I didn't know that they didn't have a good relationship. I just couldn't understand why he did that to me.
Now, the story started getting out. There were rumors about this going on. How did that come about? You think the women you told started sharing with others?
I don't know. Back in the mid-90s, a gentleman that used to come to our home as a salesman, his name was Philip Yoakum. He was close friends with that guy that ran for governor. His name, Nelson something or other, Sheffield Nelson. And they got together and wrote a letter to the media stating that because they did not want Bill Clinton to succeed as president. Right. And they wrote a letter to the media stating that I had been bought off by Bill Clinton, but this rape did occur. And that's what caused a lot of media uproar in the mid-90s.
Oh, and just to clarify that, you've never been paid any money by the Clintons?
Oh, no, absolutely. I would never have, that's just unimaginable to me.
It's like insult to injury, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, my God. I was financially secure. I certainly didn't need anyone's money to be quiet. It's just something that I chose to do because I blame myself for allowing that monster to come to my room.
What about any kind of threats or intimidation?
Well, the only thing that I had was that letter that I received from Bill Clinton in 1984. I had received an award from the state for being the best nursing home in the state. And across the bottom of it, Bill Clinton scrolls, I admire you very much, Bill. And I took that as, thank you for being quiet. I did take it as sort of a threat. And then, of course, after about 3 weeks after the rape, I had the misfortune of meeting Hillary Clinton at a fundraiser that I had helped arrange in this area at my friend's home. And after the rape, I had told my friends, Buddy and Betty Criswell, Betty and I played tennis together, and Buddy was my dentist. And I had helped arrange this wonderful fundraiser for Bill Clinton at their home. And I told them that I wasn't going to be able to attend and that, I'd had something come up. And they were very understanding. But I told them I had some checks that were written to the Clinton campaign, and I would bring those up before the fundraiser. So I went ahead up there. They had no plans whatsoever to stay for the event, did not want to see Bill Clinton, and didn't know Hillary. But before I could get out of there, my friend Chuck Watts, he was a local pharmacist who drove them from the airport to the Crystal home. And he rushes over to me. I see him coming in the back door. And he said, I just want to let you know that the topic of the conversation all the way from the airport was the Clintons asking me questions about you. And man, I just froze, and I tried to think any way just to get out of there as quick as I could. About that time, here comes the Clintons through the back kitchen area, and I see a lady pointing at me standing with Hillary, and here she comes. I couldn't make it to the door. She was between me and the door, and here she comes straight for me. And I must tell you, as she started toward me, the thoughts in my mind was, here comes that poor lady that's married to that horrible rapist. And just hold that thought. And so here she comes to me, takes a hold of my hand, and begins to say, it's so nice to meet you. I just want to tell you how appreciative that Bill and I are for everything you do for the campaign. And I nodded, and I thought, I've got to get out of here. So I turned to walk away. All of a sudden, I feel someone grab me from behind. And I thought it was somebody going to tell me goodbye. I turn around, and it's Hillary. And she pulls me close to her, and that beautiful smile has faded, and it's now a very angry look. And she very quietly says to me, do you understand everything you do? I could have fainted right at that moment. And I jerked my arm from hers, and I left.
Okay. Now, I take from that there could be no doubt in your mind that Hillary was aware of the rape.
I don't know. At the moment, people keep asking me about that.
Right.
At the moment, I knew she knew. But I don't know if she thought it was consensual or rape. I really don't know. But at that moment in time, I thought she knew.
She was absolutely aware that you were keeping something quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my. Yeah, I tell you, I do a lot of interviews. I'm a private investigator. I've interviewed a lot of witnesses, and every single word coming out of your mouth has the absolute ring of truth. Just no doubt in my mind.
I sit when I'm talking with interviewers like you, and I look, I think back about to that moment in time, because there's nothing that can erase that from my mind, and I just relate what happened.
Right. And the detail, there's just a lot of little indicators. Now, how did your story finally come out? Because it wasn't willingly. This wasn't
Paula Jones.
Paula Jones.
Ed, I probably would never have come out. I was doing great financially. Everything was going, well in my life. I had remarried, and everything was wonderful. And then all of a sudden, I get notification from the Paula Jones lawsuit that I had been named as Jane Doe number 5. I was irate. I didn't know Paula Jones at the time, but I was angry that I was being outed and drawn into her lawsuit.
And did you have to take a deposition? What happened?
Yes, and I denied it.
You denied it in the deposition, right?
I was not about to be pulled into this unwillingly, and I denied it. And of course, the Clinton attorneys were there at that deposition, and you could just see the smiles on their face, and that was hard, knowing that I was denying that the most horrific event of my life. And then so I wasn't called in the Paula Jones suit. I did what I needed to do to stay out of it. And then, of course, as you know, I was deposed by Ken Starr.
Right.
And before I showed up at my attorney's office for that deposition, my son, who's an attorney, came to me and said, Mom, Paula Jones' suit was civil. He said, this is federal. He said, you've got to go ahead and tell the truth. And I said, I just can't. I can't. He said, I know, but you have to. So that's what happened.
And they gave you immunity too so you wouldn't have a problem with the perjury charges in the original deposition, right? Well, which is normal,
right?
Now,
yeah, that I didn't really care about that. I just wanted to get the truth out. Finally get the truth out. Be brave and do it. I just didn't have a choice.
Now,